Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dodgers Port. And as you can see today, we've got the Tier 3 Japanese cruiser, the Tenryu. Now we're not going to play the Tenryu. Then why is it in the port, I hear you say? Because the Tenryu is going to be one of the ships that's going to be in the battle that we're going to come up against. And something that happens quite a lot in World of Warships, disproportionately so if you're me, is you tend to come up against tier ships that are higher than you. Now I'm going to play the battle in the Weymouth, which you're all familiar with, the nice Tier 2 British cruiser. But in this battle, the matchmaking has decided to see fit to put me up against some Tier 3 ships, this being one of them, and a couple of Tier 3 battleships just to make it a little more difficult. So that battle's partly going to be to show how to deal with a battle when you're up against ships that clearly outmatch you. They're higher tier, they've got better guns and they've got better armour, but also how to use some of their deficiencies against them. So I just want to have a quick look before we jump into the battle at the difference in the armour between the Tenryu and the Weymouth, and it's very striking. So if we look at the Tenryu first, and we're just going to look at its citadel armour, because the best way to sink a ship is to citadel it. First thing, very large citadel. Second thing, 63mm of armour. Although the top bit, if you look at this line here and above, the top bit's only 51, so 63 and 51. But the important thing is, it's a very big section, it's above the waterline, and it's flat. Which means if I can get a shell straight onto this guy at somewhere around about 5 kilometres, it's definitely going to punch through that and cause him untold pain. If by comparison you look at the Weymouth, considerably different citadel, smaller, mainly below the waterline, 51mm still, but angled. This is what we call a turtleback armour. So even a shell striking this head on has a very good chance of deflecting or not penetrating, even against ships of a higher tier. So it doesn't mean you can't go toe to toe with ships of a higher tier than you, it just means you have to know where to aim on them. Now there are a lot of ships in World of Warships. How on earth do you learn what the armour is on every single ship? Well, you could sit down for a fortnight with a book and give it your best shot. I would not recommend it. Best thing to do is whenever you get a brand new ship of your own, have a look at its armour. Because then when you come across that ship later, being played by somebody else, you'll know what it is. Just learn it one ship at a time. Trying to learn them all at once, it will drive you insane and you'll just forget it anyway. Anyway, enough of that. We'll jump into the battle and we'll see how we can take advantage of my turtle-backed armour and his flat armour. See you there. Here we are again in the Weymouth, the Tier 2 British cruiser, and the British cruiser seems to have brought the British weather with it. It's most definitely a little bit on the drizzly side. Now, as I said in the port, problem with this battle, not that you can see it, because again, the World of Warships bugs decided not to put the enemy ships on screen, but this was a Tier 2 and a Tier 3 battle, where I was in the Tier 2 ship, and there were several Tier 3s floating around. So the one ship I was most worried about, apart from the battleships, which I can definitely outrun and try and keep away from, was the Tier 3 Tenryu, which we looked at in the port. And my fervent hope was that someone else, preferably a battleship, would deal with that before I had to get anywhere near him. Spoilers, that didn't happen. Guess who ran into the Tenryu fairly early in the battle? Now, as I said in a previous battle on this map, if I'm in a destroyer, I might go around the edges. Mainly if we're playing on the map where we've got the 3 cap zones A, B and C. Because this is a single cap, I'm always going to keep an eye in the middle first and then see what happens. I'm kind of forced to go a little bit port here because the guy to my right decided he wanted to sail in a very straight line and not give me an option to sail in front of him. So keeping an eye out through the middle. Is something going to come through the middle or come around the edge first? Well, there's something around the edge, so we may as well go that way now. Decision made. Strangely, someone's firing over the island, taking a speculative shot. I guess someone could have been there, but they weren't. Our destroyer, has popped some smoke, so I think I'll just head towards it, and then I realise it's short duration smoke. Yeah, that's not really going to help me at all. So where did that destroyer go? Oh, there he is. Remembering all we have here is armour piercing shells. Torpedoes. Okay, well let's get out of the way of those. while giving this enemy destroyer a few problems. There we go. Very easy to avoid torpedoes when a colleague spots them at that range. And that's the end of him. Not quite sure why he was doing that. And there, I am now looking at the Tenryu, or Tenryu. Now remember what I said in the port, it's got this really nice big flat citadel side that you can get, but only if you hit him. Now, he's the big boy on the sea, he's the tier 3, so he's not scared of anybody. Let's see if we can get his attention and disabuse him of that idea. He's still sailing side on. This is not good. Oh, and there's the first citadel. Have we got his attention? No. He's still sailing in a straight line. Thank you very much. Keep on doing that. My shooting definitely needs work. That looks better. Oh yes, 2 more citadels. And now we've got his attention, not surprisingly. Problem is, he's down to about a third health now. And I can still pile damage into him. You'll notice I'm trying to keep him at about between 4 and 5 kilometres. I don't want his guns doing the damage they can do to me, so keep about 4 or 5 kilometres. What I do know is that my shells will definitely penetrate his armour at that range. So what's he going to do? He's going to make the typical new player mistake of turning to get all his guns to fire at me. Problem? He left that big flat side wide open. So that was 4 citadels on a ship that was a tier higher than I am. All you need to know is where the armour is, the weaknesses of the armour are, and just focus on those. And it genuinely doesn't matter. You can do that against ships that are 2 tiers higher than you if you understand where its armour is and how to get your shells through it and at what range. So where are we? We've lost all of our destroyers. Woo-hoo. That's not great. That said, it doesn't look hideous. Not sure what this guy is doing. Again, he's kind of bimbling around. Long may he bimble. Times like this you really wish I had some high explosive shells. They do a lot more damage at this range and with him angling than I can do with these armour piercing. But, you know, you can only shoot what you've got and you can only shoot who's in front of you. And we're ragging him down fairly quickly. Now, look, there's an island in front of me. We could avoid it, but that would kind of ruin one of the main points of the video, isn't it? To see when I run into an island. Didn't quite run into it, but certainly it caused me to stop and now start to reverse. He's going to turn a little bit, but you know what? His angling hasn't been hideous. It's just we managed to keep putting a lot of shells into him. So we'll back off from this island now. See you later, Mr. Island. And what have we got left? Well, we've got 4 ships left plus me. We've got 1 battleship. They've got 2 battleships. But one of them's pretty badly injured. And at this point I'm thinking, do you know what? I might be able to finish that battleship off. Because there's me and I've got the other cruiser over there who's firing at him. So between us we could do nothing because he just sank the other cruiser. Okay, that changes the dynamic completely. I now really don't want to get too close to him because all of his guns are going to be firing on me. I was quite happy to go and have a chat with him while he was splitting his fire between us or firing it all at somebody else. But I really can't afford, not with the state of this battle, now only 3 of us left, I can't afford to go and give him a lot of grief. So, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to go through the middle. We're going to ignore him because I'm going to need to find somewhere now where I can fire at the enemy cruisers without having 2 battleships firing at me at the same time, because that would be a major problem. So, we may as well have a few pops at him as we're closing. No harm. Oh, no penetration. Fantastic. Of course, I'm a tier 2, and these, by the very definition of mean battleships, are tier 3. There are some lower tier battleships, but not very many. Oh, and he's firing at me. So at this stage we're going to have to go into full dodgy mode. Keep the ship turning and moving so that he can't get a bead on us. And we've done quite a bit of damage to him, but it's still not a fight I want to get into. I don't want to sail the other way because, look, he's firing again. I don't want to get into a fight with him because I've got a battleship around here I'm going to want to go and support, because if anyone can sink their battleships, it's my friendly battleship. So I need to keep my friendly battleship alive long enough to do that. And the best way for me to do that is to do what I'm best at, and to go and sink the enemy cruisers. There we go, starting to do some damage to the cruisers. Keeping a constant eye on this battleship behind me. I do not want him firing. And here we go, incoming, so immediately swing around. And I really want to put this island between me and the battleship, because once I've got the island between me and the battleship, like I have now, I can just forget about him for a while. And it's just too stressful to try and keep an eye behind you while you're constantly looking at ships in front of you as well. You know, I only have 2 eyes, unfortunately. Right, so we've got the island between us and the battleship behind us. We might get a chance to come back and deal with him later, or we might not, depending how the battle goes. As you can see, constantly looking behind me, just making sure he's not sneaking up on me. Now there's another battleship. Oh my days, he's coming towards me. I kind of hoped he wasn't. In fact, I really hoped he wasn't, because now I've got a battleship closing from behind and a battleship absolutely steaming towards me from the front, and he's only 3.2 kilometers away. Any second now, his secondaries are going to open up on me, and they can do enough damage without his main guns. And there we go, secondaries firing at me now. Great. It's not looking good for our hero. So like a lot of battles, you kind of have to make decisions. Where am I going to put my fire? It has to be into this battleship. He's simply going to kill me with his secondaries, let alone his main guns, if I don't finish him off first. He's very low on health. I'm terrified the other battleship's going to come around the corner before I finish him off. I'm just watching him bleed my health away while piling damage into him. How is he still alive? He's been on a sliver of health for about 3 salvos. Now he's not. Okay. Oh, great. There are just 2 of us left. And we're up against 2 cruisers and 1 battleship. Now, something to point out here. In this battle, because it didn't fill the battle completely with human players, one of the 3 players left is a bot. I'll not spoil it and say which one yet. I'll give you a clue. It's not the battleship. One of the cruisers is a bot, and that's going to become very, very important towards the end of this battle. At this stage, I don't treat bots any different to humans at this level. Yeah, just fire at what's in front of you. This guy isn't the bot, by the way. And one way you can always tell if someone's definitely not a bot is if they've got camouflage, because the bots never ever use camouflage. So, oh look, the battleship's here. He's now firing at me from behind. Great stuff. So this is the human player in the cruiser. And the other one, which is there, this is the bot. It's a Weymouth. And he's sailing side on. And he doesn't have a great deal of health. So I think if we can sink him, then maybe we might have a chance, because it'll become a 2-on-2 fight at that stage. Why am I still sailing flat away like this? And because of the battleship. I just don't want the battleship getting any closer to me than he has to. I'm kind of hoping the battleship's going to go after my colleague and leave me free to do some damage. Okay. That's going to be a problem now, though, because I'm the only one left. So I now have to deal with a very badly damaged cruiser, a fairly badly damaged battleship, and a fairly badly damaged cruiser played by a bot. So first things first, going after this guy, let's see if we could sink the only remaining human-played cruiser. And both the Weymouth and the battleship are obviously firing at me because they've got nothing left to fire, and this is frustrating. He's now out of my line of sight, so I'm going to have to switch my target. And do you know what? He's obviously popped a heel. He did not have that much health when he came around the corner earlier. Oh, he's going to take... Oh, and of course I'm still in his line of sight because I'm being spotted by the battleship. And the Weymouth has disappeared. Wonder what he's doing. Wonder what his plans are. The one thing I do know about this battleship is, even if it was a one-on-one fight, this would be tough, because my armor-piercing shells do not do a great deal of damage to him, and his shells absolutely kick 3 bells out of me if he can land a good shot. So sinking him even one-on-one is going to be a problem. And dodgy. But do we give up? Anybody who's seen the video Never Give Up, Never Surrender knows the answer to that. That was closer than I'd have liked. You see, I'm ricocheting and all sorts of stuff off him. How annoying. And he's going to hunt me down. Make no mistakes about this. He's not an idiot. He's going to try and hunt me down. If necessary, push me right up against the edge of the map and just demolish me with his secondaries. Now, luckily, I think this player was thinking of heading back to the cap to help the other guy who's in my cap zone, and we'll discuss that in a second. But he's not going to do that because I've managed to sink him from about 1,000 miles away. So we've got now the cruiser, the Weymouth, you know, the one that I let get away earlier. He's now in my cap zone. I'm not sure I can get to him in time, but there is one ray of hope. It's a bot, remember. Bots are notoriously stupid when it comes to capping. They'll very often, if there's an enemy ship close enough, leave a cap zone to come and get it. So I figure I've got to get close enough to him, maybe even within line of sight of him, and see if I can tease him to come out of the cap zone. But whilst doing that, I've somehow got to avoid this behemoth from sinking me. And of course I run aground, because why wouldn't you in a battle when it's really important? Luckily it was just a smidge of ground rather than a full face plant onto the island. Oh, I'm just waiting for any second now for him to just... There we go, the secondaries... Oh, and yeah, taking damage. Within secondary range, so he's going to start opening up with his main guns. I've got to get at least slightly side on and just hope for the best. 5 minutes left of the battle. It ain't going to go 5 minutes. They've now capped half the zone. At this point I'm thinking, God damn it, why didn't I chase after that Weymouth and sink him? It's unusual for a bot to cap like that, but they will. So what can we do? Well, we can try and sink the battleship, get a few extra XP. And if we lose to a bot capping, well, put that down to a lesson learned. As I've said before, you don't have to win battles to learn lessons. So at this stage, what can we say that we've learned from the battle, apart from don't let the enemy Weymouth get away from you, even if it's a bot, because it's probably going to cap and lose you the game. Well, try and keep battleships out of secondary range. Try and keep them at the point where the only thing they can fire at you is their main guns, because they've got a rubbish reload time. And you know I've got the incoming fire. Oh dear lord, that was close. I've got the incoming fire warnings, so I can usually start dodging as he fires at me. Now, his health isn't brilliant. It's possible we may actually sink this battleship, and we've led him a real merry dance all around the map. For me, the key here with the battleships was taking them on one at a time. Had I gone to the first battleship and then had this guy come up behind me, I'd have had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and they would 100% have sunk me. By getting the island between me and that first battleship, and then dealing with the second battleship, I was able then to keep myself in with a chance. Oh look, a Kraken. And look, they've stopped capping. Now if this had been a human player, this battle was 100% lost. But as I said earlier, and the only reason I felt I was in with any chance, is bots are really stupid when it comes to capping. So not only has he just thrown away the chance of capping, but he's got no health. I think if you could see me playing the game at the minute, there'd have been a little bit of fist pumping going on. Oh, there would be if I could actually hit the side of a barn door with a broom. Oh look, straddle. But he's got no health, and I've got nearly all mine, and I've even got all 3 of my heals remaining. Finally. Any sec now, the battle will be over. But not yet. Let's get the Confederate medal first. Why not? Here we are, back in Old Blighty, in the Weymouth, with a little bit of a fortunate win under our belt. Why was it fortunate? Well, the last ship was a bot. A human player wins that battle, no doubt about it. But the AI on the bots, as I said earlier, not brilliant when it comes to capping. They do tend to saunter out sometimes. So if you're in that position, don't give up. The bot may very well leave the cap zone and come to get you. There were some good things though. If you remember from the port screen beforehand, we looked at the Tenryu and how it had got weaknesses in its armour, that being that it's very flat, very big and very above the waterline compared to mine, which allowed us to hit 4 citadels in that battle and get rid of him. Now, why was I staying the distance away from him? Well, I needed to be close enough, which is about 5 kilometres, to be sure my shells would have the penetrative value to get through that armour, but I didn't want to get any closer because the Tenryu also has torpedoes that have a 7 kilometre range, and I genuinely was worried about him spamming those at me. It may be the last turn he did was partly to get the guns on me, and he may very well at that point have been thinking of launching a set of torpedoes, but the final citadel finished him off. Handling the battleships. How do you handle 2 tier 3 battleships when they're both coming at you? As we said in one of the other previous ones, 1 ship at a time. There was nowhere really to hide, so put 1 battleship around an island, get him away so it's 1 at a time, and only when you sink the other battleship do you then allow him to come and engage you. Just about managing the number of targets that are putting fire on you at once. There's no disgrace in running away, and there's certainly no disgrace in hiding. It's a lot better and a lot drier than sinking. Hope you enjoyed that battle. Hope you picked up some tips from it. We're going to do a battleship battle on Saturday. So if you're interested in that, show up, watch that video. Until then, see you later. Bye bye.